So when I interviewed the vice president before he became the vice president, and we talked a little bit about this issue, and he talked about the idea of, the 6 or 7 million American men who have dropped out of the workforce, who are particularly vulnerable to opioid addiction and family breakdown and all of these things, right? Are those the kind of workers who are likely to be hired in the factory of the future that is highly, highly automated?
Well, I think generally speaking, the answer is yes. And one good place we have to look to understand what this sort of highly advanced manufacturing would look like is what's starting to happen with the CHIPS Act, and where you see the sort of high-end chip makers locating and who they're hiring. And so if you look at, TSMC locating outside of Phoenix, Intel locating in the middle of Ohio, Micron focusing on upstate New York, obviously, those aren't sort of rural agricultural places necessarily, but they're the kinds of places that otherwise have not been the beneficiaries of a lot of the other kinds of growth we've seen in recent decades. And if you look at who they're hiring and how you're doing it, what you see is, yes, there is some kind of very high skilled employment, very sophisticated types of work. And I think it's also a good thing to bring more people with those types of skills to those communities. But then on top of that, you're seeing a lot of what gets typically called mid-skilled jobs. You're seeing the companies partner with community colleges to equip people with the kind of training they need to be the technicians, let's say, in these factories. You see a lot of partnerships with labor unions. You're seeing the same thing from the big tech companies as they need to build out data centers. Suddenly they're very interested in electricians and figuring out how to work well with labor unions. So I think that's all to the good. I think the caveat that's fair but also unfair is to then focus on the specific example of, okay, let's talk about the person who has been so harmed by deindustrialization, people in these left behind communities who are out of the workforce entirely. Are those the particular people who are going to be able to take these jobs? In some case, the answer is probably yes. In some case, the answer is probably no. And I think we therefore have certainly a lot of other work to do to think about how to engage those folks. But what having this will do is make sure that the next generation has a lot more opportunity than this past one did. And so the fact that it doesn't necessarily, resolve every problem we have today, I think is certainly not an argument against building in this direction going forward.